Hey YouTube, MaxZ2021 here, coming at you with another manga discussion video. Second time I'm talking about this series. Uh, anyways, this time I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on the official English translation for Komi Can't Communicate, or if you want to go with the Japanese name, Komi-san wa Kamyusho desu, or just Komi-san. That's what I usually go with, since that's the shortest and easiest to say. So yeah, I mainly just want to talk about the English translation that Viz did for the series. At least with what's currently available with the first three volumes, since Volume 4 doesn't come out until December. I think December 10th. Anyways, yeah, I just want to talk about my thoughts on the official English translation and give like a little brief plot summary. And by brief, I mean just mainly reading what they got on the back cover and just saying something about that. I mainly want to do that for anybody watching this that hasn't either heard of the series, has heard of the series but doesn't know anything about it, or anybody that didn't watch that 20-minute video I did last year when I first talked about the series. So yeah, that's just mainly expect that for the video. Before I actually get into the video, there's about two things I want to touch on. First of all, before I even say anything about the translation, I just want to get it out there that I do not think this translation is bad by any means, or I don't think it's straight up bad or something like that. I think it gets the job done. That's good. There's not really anything that I think is mistranslated, but uh, aside from that, there's like maybe one or two things that I have like very minor nitpicks regarding this translation. And then there's like one major thing that I have an actual issue with that I think may come off as confusing to some people that aren't familiar with honorifics, and I'll touch on that later in the video. So, yeah, might as well talk about the plot before I go in. Oh, wait. I said I was gonna talk about three. Wait, you know what? I'll touch on that second thing after I talk about the plot. So, usually when I do one of these, I'll just sum up the plot of a manga or whatever off the top of my head based on what I remember about it, whether it's something I read a long time ago or something I read recently. And this time, I'm gonna mix it up and just read what's on the back cover, since those are usually done to sell people on a book or something. At least I'm pretty sure that's what the purpose of these little blurbs on the back are for, or whatever. So, uh, anyways, uh, the plot goes something like this: socially, ah, socially anxious high school student Shoko Komi's greatest dream is to make some friends, but everyone at school makes her crippling social anxiety mistakes her crippling social anxiety for cool reserve. With the whole student body keeping its distance and Komi unable to utter a single word, friendship might be forever beyond her reach. Tim Tadano is a total wallflower, and that's just the way he likes it. But all that changes when he finds himself alone in the classroom on the first day of high school with the legendary Komi. Emphasis on the legendary. They don't actually put quotes around legendary. I just wanted to say emphasis on. He quickly realizes she isn't aloof. She's just super awkward. Now he's made it his mission to help her on her quest to make 100 friends. The journey to 100 friends begins with a single conversation. So, all that happens in the first 6 chapters, and essentially, has a communication disorder. Everybody idolizes her. They think she's the greatest person to ever exist, most beautiful person to ever exist, stuff like that. And because of her communication disorder, she can't really communicate with anybody. Hence the title of the manga. But the other main character, Hirohito Tadano, is the first person to realize that she has a communication disorder, and he takes it upon himself to help her with her dream or goal or whatever of making 100 friends by becoming her first friend. And that's essentially how the plot gets kicked off. In the first 6 chapters, now, for anybody that doesn't feel like watching the rest of the video and were just sold with whatever I just said about the plot, well, as far as buying the volumes goes, you can get them physically and digitally on Amazon. The digital volumes, I think they go for $6.99, like $6-7 maybe, and the physical volumes are $9.99. Currently, there's only 3 available in English, and Volume 4 is coming out in December. You can also buy the volumes wherever else they sell manga, like Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, uh, eBay. Well, that's more for like used manga, but you can still get new stuff there. You can probably find the volumes at secondhand stores like Second Charles, and yeah. As for the Japanese volumes, you can. Well, I get these from CD Japan, at least for the physical ones. I know you can get them physically and digitally on Amazon JP. I haven't really shopped there yet, but I know that's an option. Uh, and I don't really keep track of the price of the Japanese volumes. I mean, volume one says 429 yen. So you could probably get them for like around 500 yen, give or take. But as for the Japanese volumes, volume 15 comes out this month. I think the 18th or 19th. I had to double check on that. So, yeah, with all that said, I want to get into some technical stuff like who does the series, when it started, stuff like that. I figured it would be better to save it for after introducing the series for anybody that hasn't heard of it or doesn't know anything about it or didn't watch that video I mentioned. So the this manga is drawn. Written and drawn by Tomohito Oda. This is his second serialized work. It's a comedy slash romance. I don't want to say rom com because it's primarily a comedy at first, and romance elements don't get introduced until volume two. It is. Oh, let me pull this out. It is. I mean, it has been. Wait, let me see what I wrote down. It's been serialized in a weekly Shonen Sunday, this magazine, since May 18th, 2016. Volume 1 was released in English on June 11th, 2019. Uh, as of this recording, there are currently 227 chapters released slash translated online. Uh, that second thing that I mentioned that I wanted to bring up before, like talking about translation and other stuff. I've been meaning to do this video for a good while, and at the time that I was initially going to do this video, when I wrote out all this stuff after reading volume one, there were about 207 chapters at that point in time. So it's been about 20 to 21 weeks since I planned on doing this video, but I just haven't really been able to because I've been busy with school and other stuff. You know how life is. So, yeah, I've been meaning to do this for a while. I just haven't had a chance to. But some other minor stuff that I feel is worth mentioning that probably isn't actually important, at least to most people. At the time that I got caught up with the manga last year, there were 138 chapters at that point in time. And when I did that initial video where I was talking about the series and just explaining reasons why I like it as much as I do and why it's one of my all time favorites, there were either 145 or 151 chapters at that point in time. I don't remember the exact number. I just I just remember one of those two numbers at that point in time. That's like the only two numbers that pop in my head as far as chapter numbers go. But let's see. So yeah, at the time I wrote this, this was after I read volume one, and I'm kind of glad I waited until we got a few more volumes in English. Because at first, I'm not really sure what exactly I was thinking about the translation. There was just stuff that I didn't like since I had been reading it online for over a year at that point, and I was just gonna be all, yeah, I don't like what they did regarding this stuff, but then I figured I could just wait for volume two to be released in English, and give them the benefit of the doubt since it was their first time uh, translating it. Whoever it was that was the main person in charge of the translation. But after reading volume two, and then volume three shortly after, I want to say that I'm glad I waited because that put some concerns of mine to rest, and it made me realize the one main actual issue I have with the translation, uh, Pretty much it's the fact that they don't have honorifics and the whole naming order convention thing. At least for this translation, not the one online. Like I'm not trying to sound entitled or something like that, but I feel that they could have either included honorifics with the names, like instead of calling her Komi-san, they just say Komi, and like they don't have like other honorifics like Kun and Chan, stuff like that. But at the same time, I feel that somebody that isn't familiar with any of that stuff, as far as like Japanese goes, that won't be like something to be concerned over. But one thing that I think could have been different was the fact that when a character gets introduced, they have they have their name in the Western naming order, where it's given name first, family name second, and in the Japanese version and the online translation, they have it to where it's the Japanese naming order, or well, I say Japanese naming order, but there's other places that do it like this, where essentially it's the family name first and the given name second. So, like for instance, when Komi gets introduced, they introduce her as Shoko Komi, but whenever anybody is referring to her or talking to her or saying her name, they just call her Komi instead of Shoko, which, going by what I know about how people address other people over in that part of the world, you don't address somebody with their given name unless you're really familiar with them, like your family or really close friends or related or married or whatever. So the fact that they keep it like that with the whole addressing them with the family name, but not including the suffixes. Well, no, not really that, but just no, yeah. That's it. I know what I want to say. I think it could be a little confusing for some people since they got it to where they introduce the character with the given name first, but every other instance that I've noticed after a character's been introduced, they have it to where that character's being addressed with their last name or family name, whichever one you prefer to refer to it as. And I think not everybody would know why they're being addressed with their last name going by how they were introduced. Uh, yeah, that's honestly the only thing I dislike about the official English translation. Other than that, the minor nitpicks I have is like the lack of honorifics, which at first I was thinking that it was just a Viz thing since not every publish, I mean, since some publishers for English manga are more likely to use honorifics than others, and a lot of the time, or a lot of stuff that I've read from Viz, whether it's from like 10 years ago or nowadays, they don't include the honorifics. So at first I was thinking it was just a Viz thing when they didn't have the honorifics with this translation. But I noticed in another manga that Viz put out, uh, I recently started reading Haikyuu again, like a week or two ago, since I couldn't remember how far I got. And I noticed in chapter 2, well, no, I say that, but it wasn't until volume 2 that I realized they had the honorifics in this translation, or the whoever was translating Haikyuu. And yeah, I don't really feel like counting the pages, but I found a page in chapter 2 where somebody's using san at the end of someone's name. And when I checked the back, two things I noticed were they have a little page with editor's note saying what the different terms and honorifics mean. And at the front of the book with the credits or whatever, it's a different person in charge of the translation as opposed to Komi-san. So at that point, I realized that it's not Viz at fault for the lack of honorifics or whatever. It's just whoever's in charge of the translation. And like, I don't think it's a problem that there's a lack of honorifics. I'm just so used to reading it where there are honorifics that I kind of wish they were there, but I don't think it's a deal breaker. The only other nitpick I have that's like very minor, but nothing that's going to really hamper the experience from reading Komi-san in English, at least for the official translation. Uh, I want to say it's the fact that they don't really the way that this guy does character names. Essentially, any character that's named, their name can be translated to a word pun or play on words. And uh what was I gonna say? And essentially whatever a character's name translates to or whatever it means, that can give you a good idea of what kind of character they are. But I I feel like with them not introducing a character with like the Japanese naming order, they can't really do the whole name pun, since I would imagine that he wrote them in mind with the name being written in uh, family name first, given name second, and like they still get the point across with the name pun stuff, or like what a character's gimmick or like quirk is. But I feel like they could have taken it a step further with that. And yeah, I'm not really sure how else to explain it other than what I just said. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think Uh, they could have changed the way that they ordered the names when a character gets introduced. But other than that, I guess they did a good enough job. I mean, it makes sense. There's not really anything that's been mistranslated. Uh, yeah, I can't. I really can't think of anything else to say without like really going into detail, like I did with that other video from last year. And yeah, that's it. So, uh, uh, yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next video whenever I get out another one. Uh, yeah, if you want more, if you want to ask like anything specific about the translation or the series or whatever, just drop a comment. I'll definitely get back to that ASAP. Uh, yeah, thanks for watching.